In the early years of the 20th century, a remarkable discovery captured the imagination of the world. In 1898, the brilliant scientists Marie and Pierre Curie isolated a new element called radium. It glowed with an ethereal light, seeming almost magical in its ability to shine in the darkness without any external power. People hailed it as a miracle substance, one that promised cures for diseases, boundless energy, and even beauty enhancements in everyday products. Factories soon sprang up to harness this wonder, particularly in the production of luminous paints for watches and instruments that could be read at night. Little did anyone know that this glowing marvel would become the center of one of the most poignant and consequential tragedies in American industrial history, a story of young women whose quiet dedication and eventual fight for justice would reshape how society protects its workers. The tale begins amid the backdrop of World War I. As the United States entered the conflict in 1917, there was a pressing need for reliable timepieces and dials for military equipment that soldiers could use in the dark trenches and cockpits. Companies like the United States Radium Corporation in Orange, New Jersey, expanded rapidly to meet this demand. They hired hundreds of young women, many in their teens and early 20s, for the delicate task of painting these dials. These workers, who came to be known as the Radium Girls, were drawn to the jobs because they paid well, offered a sense of patriotic contribution to the war effort, and involved what seemed like artistic, almost playful work. The factories were bustling places filled with the energy of youth, where friends chatted and laughed while creating tiny points of light that would guide navigators and troops through the night. The painting process itself was precise and demanding. Each woman would dip a fine camel hair brush into a small pot of radium-laced paint, which mixed radium salts with a binder to create a luminous glow. To achieve the fine tip needed for the intricate numbers and hands on the dials, supervisors instructed the girls to point the brushes with their lips, a technique called lip pointing. It was efficient and became second nature, done hundreds of times per shift. The paint had a pleasant, slightly sweet taste, and the girls often played with it, painting their nails or drawing glowing designs on their skin and clothes for fun. At night, as they walked home or danced at local halls, their hair and dresses would sometimes shimmer faintly in the dark, earning them affectionate nicknames like the Ghost Girls. To them and to the public, radium was not a danger but a glamorous novelty, celebrated in advertisements as the magic that made the impossible possible. For several years, life in these factories appeared idyllic. The women formed close bonds, sharing stories of their families, dreams for the future, and the simple joys of earning their own wages in an era when opportunities for young women were limited. Many came from working-class backgrounds in New Jersey, Illinois, and Connecticut, where similar dial painting operations opened. They were proud of their contributions, knowing their precise work helped keep American forces on schedule during the war. The factories hummed with activity, and the glowing paint seemed to symbolize progress and innovation in a rapidly modernizing world. Yet beneath this surface of camaraderie and productivity, an invisible threat was at work, one that science at the time was only beginning to understand. The first signs of trouble emerged subtly in the early 1920s. Some of the women began experiencing unusual fatigue, persistent toothaches, and pains in their joints that doctors initially dismissed as common ailments of the time. As symptoms worsened for a few, including swelling and difficulty eating, concern grew within the tight-knit communities. One of the earliest and most tragic cases involved a young woman named Molly Maggia, who worked at the New Jersey plant. Her health declined rapidly, with severe jaw pain and infections that baffled medical professionals. She passed away in 1922 at just 25 years old, her suffering a harbinger of what was to come for many others. Doctors struggled to connect the dots, sometimes attributing the illnesses to unrelated causes, leaving families grieving without clear answers. As more women fell ill, patterns became impossible to ignore. Conditions like anemia, bone fractures from minor impacts, and necrosis of the jaw, later termed radium jaw, started appearing with alarming frequency. The radium, once ingested through the lip-pointing habit or absorbed through the skin, was depositing in the bones, where its radioactive emissions slowly damaged living tissue over time. The women's bodies were literally glowing from within, but this internal luminescence was destructive rather than benign. Corporate officials at the radium companies, however, maintained that the paint was harmless, pointing to the fact that radium was used in medical treatments and consumer goods. They resisted any suggestions of workplace hazards, prioritizing production and profits over emerging concerns. This denial only deepened the tragedy, delaying recognition and help for those already suffering. The human impact was profound and heartbreaking. These were vibrant young women in the prime of life, many with families or plans for marriage and children, whose futures were suddenly clouded by mysterious illnesses. They endured not only physical pain, but also the emotional toll of watching friends and colleagues deteriorate while feeling powerless. In the face of medical confusion and corporate indifference, some began to speak out, seeking answers and accountability. Their stories highlight the vulnerabilities of workers, particularly women in industrial settings during an era when labor protections were minimal and scientific understanding of radiation was incomplete. The Radium Girls became symbols of resilience amid adversity, their personal struggles intertwined with broader questions about responsibility in the modern workplace. One of the most determined figures in this unfolding drama was Grace Fryer, a former dial painter who had left the New Jersey factory. She watched as her health and that of her former colleagues declined. After struggling to find legal representation, she and 4 other women filed a landmark lawsuit against the United States Radium Corporation in 1927. Their case drew national and even international attention, shining a light on the hidden costs of industrial progress. Lawyers and journalists amplified their voices, revealing how company doctors and executives had downplayed risks even as evidence mounted. The courtroom battles were arduous, with the women testifying despite their frailty, their courage inspiring public sympathy and outrage. Though the initial New Jersey case was settled out of court in 1928, providing some compensation and medical support, it marked a significant step toward acknowledging corporate accountability. Similar stories played out in other locations, notably Ottawa, Illinois, where another group of dial painters faced their own challenges in the 1930s. Led by figures like Catherine Donahue, these women fought through hearings and appeals, their perseverance eventually leading to favorable rulings despite repeated delays and company resistance. One by one, many of the Radium Girls passed away, their bodies still radioactive long after death, a testament to the element's persistence. Yet their collective effort did not end in vain. The publicity surrounding the cases forced changes in industrial practices, including the discontinuation of lip pointing and the introduction of safer handling methods for radioactive materials. The legacy of the Radium Girls extends far beyond their immediate time. Their story played a crucial role in advancing the field of health physics and occupational medicine. Scientists studying their cases helped establish safe exposure limits for radiation, knowledge that proved invaluable in later projects like the Manhattan Project during World War II. More broadly, the lawsuit set important legal precedents for workers' rights to sue employers for occupational diseases and contributed to the development of stronger labor protections across the United States. Decades later, these efforts influenced the creation of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration in 1970, an agency dedicated to preventing the kinds of tragedies the Radium Girls endured. What began as individual suffering evolved into systemic reform, saving countless lives in industries involving hazardous materials. Reflecting on this chapter of history, we are reminded of the enduring importance of vigilance, ethics, and empathy in the face of scientific and industrial advancement. The Radium Girls were ordinary women thrust into extraordinary circumstances, their lives a poignant illustration of how progress can come at a human cost when safeguards lag behind innovation. Their fight underscores the value of listening to workers' voices, prioritizing safety over shortcuts, and ensuring that the pursuit of knowledge serves humanity rather than endangering it. In today's world, where new technologies and materials continue to emerge, their story serves as a timeless lesson. True advancement must always be grounded in respect for human life and well-being. As we consider the broader sweep of the 20th century, the Radium Girls stand alongside other unsung figures who helped shape a more just society. Their experiences highlight themes of gender and class in the workforce, the evolving relationship between science and industry, and the power of collective action. Though many of their names have faded from popular memory, the protections born from their struggles continue to benefit workers everywhere. Their courage in confronting powerful institutions, even as their own bodies failed them, exemplifies the quiet heroism that often drives historical change. It invites us to honor the past not through sensationalism, but through thoughtful remembrance and a commitment to preventing similar oversights in our own era. In the end, the glow that once seemed so enchanting revealed its darker side, but from that shadow emerged lasting light in the form of improved standards and greater awareness. The Radium Girls narrative is one of loss and resilience, of tragedy transformed into triumph through determination and truth-seeking. It encourages us to approach innovation with caution and compassion, ensuring that no one's silent suffering goes unheeded. By learning from their story, we carry forward the responsibility to build a world where safety and dignity are fundamental rights for all who labor. Their legacy endures as a call to remember, to reflect, and to act with the wisdom that history so generously provides.